I'm 72 years old. I started my fitness journey in my 60s. Along the way, I had a heart attack and recovered from that. Now, at 72, I'm no super athlete, but I am in pretty good shape. And what I'd like to share with you today is how I got started on my fitness journey later in life and what I would do if I were going to start over. So I'll share with you the exact steps that I would take if I were starting a fitness journey later in life. But before I do that, I just have to tell you about the wake up call that I had. You may have a different wake up call, but for me, I was somewhere in my early 60s. I was still working. I was very sedentary. My job required me to sit at a desk 8, 10, sometimes 12 hours a day. One day I had to get out of my chair, get on my hands and knees, crawl under the desk, and unplug a laptop. You never heard so much grunting and groaning and moaning in your entire life. I could barely crawl under the desk, barely crawl back out, barely get up in my chair. And at exact moment, I decided this is ridiculous. Plus, I can see where it's going from here, and it's not going to be pretty. So I found some high intensity interval training videos on YouTube. And at that point in my life, I started working out in my basement just by myself, just getting a little bit more mobile. And that worked for a while. In fact, I did that for several years. But eventually I noticed I had plateaued and wasn't making any more progress. Somewhere around that time, I became aware of a sport called CrossFit or a type of gym called a CrossFit gym. It intrigued me and I decided I was going to try it out. I looked up a gym online and called and made an appointment and went over for a first session. I can't even tell you how intimidated I was. I just assumed that everybody in there was going to be 30 or 40 years younger than me and that they'd all laugh at me and I wouldn't fit in, but I was determined to go anyway. Really, those kind of ideas were a misconception. I went in, I was warmly welcomed. The coaching staff scaled everything down to my ability level. The other members were very welcoming, and there were people my age there. So it turned out to be a really great thing, and I loved it. Now, the first 3 months, I'll have to admit, my body took some adjusting. I'd go 2 or 3 times a week, go immediately home, and just sit on the sofa for an hour, trying to recover. So that went great for about 9 months, and then about 9 months in, through no fault of CrossFit, I, had a heart attack, had double bypass surgery, and I was out of the gym for about 5 months. However, my doctors told me, "Well, it's a good thing you were in pretty good shape because that really helps you recover better." Well, I came back. I got stronger and stronger. I've been going strong ever since. And this year's CrossFit Open in the men's 70 plus division, I placed in the 72nd percentile of fittest men in the world in the CrossFit community. So I'm no super athlete, but I am in pretty good shape. But what I want to tell you about now is what I would do if I were going to start over later in life or even after just coming back from a setback. How would I get started back or how would get started into fitness later in life? First of all, I'd check with my doctor. We need to be safe. So I'd check with my doctor and make sure he thought it was okay for me to start a new training regimen. Second thing I would do, I would simply start walking. People probably don't realize how good it is for your heart and for your general fitness to just walk. And it wouldn't matter how far I started at because my goal would be to progress. So even if I just walked around the block once, that would be fine. But I would definitely be looking for the day when I could walk around the block twice, 3 times, until I could walk a mile, until I could walk 2 miles or 3 miles. I'd start with walking. Then I'd probably add some low impact exercises of other kinds, such as riding a bike or swimming. Those are great exercises and they don't hurt your joints at all. After I got that going in my life, I would definitely add some strength training. I would train first with body weight exercises. Remember, body weight is not no weight. So push ups, squats, that kind of thing. You say, well, I can't do a push up. Well, push ups off my knees, push ups off a wall. There are modifications for any kind of body weight exercise. I'd find out what some of those are and I would start doing some of that. However, I definitely would not stop with body weight. I would get proper coaching and training and add resistance training, weightlifting. And yes, I would start with light weights, but just like with the walking, I would definitely have an ambition and a goal of moving up to heavier and heavier weights. You need to strengthen those muscles and those bones. It's good for us older people. And don't forget about mobility and flexibility and balance. You can train those things as well. Now, I get a lot of that in my CrossFit training, but there are other ways to go about getting that if you're not a CrossFit fan. Uh, but I don't forget about those things, and I would add those things into my training as well. So that is how I would start back if I were really out of shape and wanted to start getting back into shape at any age. And I have to put in a shameless plug for CrossFit. I am a big believer in the CrossFit method. Check it out. Message me and let me know if you would like some more information about that. I think it would be great for anybody. So try CrossFit. However, when I talk about CrossFit and getting in shape, I'm not talking about necessarily participating in some competitions like I do. I do that for fun. It's a hobby. I like it. I'm talking about functional fitness, getting in shape to carry groceries, to pick up grandkids, to walk up the steps, to take a walk around the block without getting out of breath. I want my health span to match my lifespan, and I'll bet you do too. Starting over after a health setback or after the age of 50 or 60 or 70, it's not about being perfect. It's not about being a super athlete. It's about deciding that I can and I will get back into shape. If you're thinking about starting or restarting your fitness journey, I wonder what your biggest barrier is. I don't know what fear may be holding you back, but let me know what that is and drop it in the comments below and I'll discuss that with you. I really appreciate your comments. It helps the channel grow. Plus, I like to read them. I read them all and respond to all that I possibly can. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share it, leave me a comment. As I said, that helps the channel grow. And remember, it's not your age that defines you. It's what's in your heart that makes you who you are. I'll see you in the next video.